Byte FM auf dem Popkulturfestival 2022 hier auf dem Gelände der Kulturbrauerei in Berlin. Ich bin Paula und ich sitze hier mit Anna B. Savage. Welcome to the sofa.
Thank you so much.
How are you doing?
Good. It's very soft. It's nice.
It is. It's less awkward than I imagined. So, of course, I did a little bit of research on you, but there's not a lot of information about you personally out there, except for that you are from London. You make great music.
Thank you.
You like birds.
Yes.
Was that a deliberate decision to keep the sense of privacy around you?
I mean, I kind of slightly find that hilarious because I feel like my music is the most exposing, sharing thing in the world. So I guess, yeah, maybe in a way it wasn't on purpose consciously, but maybe it was on purpose just as I don't need to tell everyone everything about myself. But if you followed my Instagram in 2020 or 2021, you probably know basically everything there is to know about me.
That's exactly what I found so interesting about you, this discrepancy between... There's a lot going on in the background right now.
Ooh.
This discrepancy between you, the artist, who's a little bit more private, and your music that's highly intimate and highly personal. Like, we don't know where you're from or if you have a dog or a brother or what's your zodiac sign, like all the basic stuff. But we do know that at least at some point you found it hard to focus on a guy giving you head because there was a distracting song playing in the background. Do you ever feel like there's this fear of maybe giving too much of yourself away in your music?
Oh my God, I love these questions.
Thank you.
So good, such good research. Do I feel like there's a fear of giving too much of myself away? Yeah, I guess I mean, it's like I'm just full of hypocrisies. So I wrote the songs not really thinking that anyone would hear them, but also really hoping that they would. So it was really confusing. But yeah, I guess like as soon as I started releasing stuff, everyone was like, "You're sharing so much of yourself. How does that feel?" And I was like, "Well, I hadn't really thought about it, but now maybe I should be more, conscious of it and more careful with it, I guess." But I am, maybe to my detriment, probably too open in most of my life. But yeah, I feel like anything that's going to help or like accentuate the music is probably important, and anything else that isn't is probably not. But I'm a double Leo, and I have a brother and a sister.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Are they younger or older than you?
Quite a lot older than me.
Okay. Yeah, double Leo, that says it all.
Yeah, I know. It's classic, isn't it?
How did you get started in music?
So my parents are opera singers. So my whole family has always been... Everything has been about music. So yeah, for my whole childhood I just spent like singing along to kind of opera and jazz and pop and like classical music, kind of everything. And
how did you start like writing your own stuff?
That was more difficult. Because my folks are classical musicians, I never thought that you had to write your own stuff. So I was a bit like, what is this? I don't know how to do this. But I guess it just became more and more evident that in order to actually have a career, I would have to write stuff. Although I would love to be like the female Michael Bublé, but I was also had loads of stage fright, so it's like, yeah, it's a weird, heady mix.
You're pretty far away from the female Michael Bublé.
Yeah, at the moment.
Say so. Okay.
Who knows where I'll go?
Well, your debut album came out in the beginning of last year, and you also had an EP coming out in the same time. And one thing I can say about the album is that in terms of sound, it was super surprising to me. Like you have these like almost theatrical vocals who are like hyper enunciated, and then those electric like James Blake type outbursts that are quite fun. Were you inspired by any specific artists in the making?
Yeah, I guess I'm inspired by basically everything, which is quite hard to distill into a question or an answer for an interview. But like, yeah, I mean, the theatrical vocals is just, I grew up with opera. Yeah. Opera is the most overly melodramatic thing in the entire world. And I also love musicals, total musical nerd.
Hot take.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I guess there's an element of that in it, although I never really did that consciously. I think the enunciated lyrics is definitely just from being in choirs.
But it's nice. It gives it like a very personal, aura. Almost.
Yeah. And I think I always had it always made me a bit sad when I would hear English people singing with American accents. And I'd be
they
like,
do that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's very natural because everything you hear has an American accent on it.
True.
But I was always a bit like, it doesn't feel right to me.
Mm-hmm.
Or I also just can't really do accents. So I think I was like, I'm just going to save myself the trouble.
Fair enough. Did you listen to any specific music while you were making the album?
Yeah, I'm hilariously bad at listening to music. But throughout my life, I've kind of listened to, like, when I was growing up, like Nick Drake and like Radiohead and Coldplay and Owen Pallett and Ella Fitzgerald and Joni Mitchell were like my staples.
Mm-hmm.
But then, yeah, as I got older, I got into kind of slightly more left field stuff. So like there's a band called Buchan Gase who I really got into. And then I guess like I feel like Owen Pallett was like he's like the perfect example of what I loved, which is like this really intense, like classical training where he's super proficient, and then he just uses technology to just accentuate that in such amazing and inventive ways. And, you know, I definitely am not comparing myself to him. I would love to be, you know, a 20th of the musician that he is. But yeah, I think that kind of, also the disparity of putting things that don't necessarily go together next to each other, I think it just gives everything such a nice new texture.
Definitely. That's exactly the experience I had when I listened to your album.
Thank
I was
you.
like, wow, what's going on? But it's great and it works together.
Thank
and it's
you.
very surprising and nice. The album is mainly about getting out of a bad relationship. Is there one song on the album that best describes the mood you were in when you were making the album?
It's funny because I feel like it's interesting that it comes across like that, because I feel like there were lots of different relationships kind of, you know, woven into one big blob. But I would say, yeah, probably A Common Turn. Like when I wrote those lyrics, I was like, oh man, I've just written the title track of the song, and that's what the album and that's what it's called. And it just suddenly was like, that kind of felt like, I don't know, I'd been working away at these songs for so long, and I felt like they didn't make sense. They weren't, you know, they weren't unified in any way. And suddenly writing that song, I was like,
it's an album.
got it. Yeah.
Nice. So you weren't planning to make an album?
I was hoping,
okay,
but I just had so little belief in myself that it was kind of, yeah, I wasn't sure if I would be able to do it.
Did you recently start making music, or?
I recently started properly trying to make music. Yeah, I think I'd always expected that kind of divine inspiration thing.
Don't
where,
we all?
Yeah, it'd be so easy, wouldn't it? It'd be so much nicer.
Yeah,
actually having to
be
sit
put
down
on a path.
Yeah, exactly.
Be nice.
You go there.
Yeah.
This is the song you will write now,
and you will be very successful with it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's I don't know. So it's a weird one.
Yeah, I mean, can be.
Yeah.
Sure. In the wake of the pandemic, where everything was mostly happening digitally, this year's Pop Culture Festival, where we are right now, also aims to combine a lot of different forms of media. Do you feel like your usage or your perception of media has changed throughout the pandemic?
Yeah, I would say so. I think there was that initial boom where everyone was like, oh, we want all of it. We want all the different types of media. We want videos. We want all the sounds. We want podcasts. We want everything. I just want to like consume. And then I think there was a really interesting shift where everyone was suddenly like, oh, it's too much. I need some curation. I need it to like chill out a bit. I need a break. I need to go outside. Yeah, I think it's really interesting, because now I feel like things are leveling out again a bit, and people aren't. I'm just going to speak for me personally rather than trying to generalise, but I definitely felt like right at the beginning I was like, I'm so thankful for all of the different types of media and for being able to consume all of this stuff that makes me feel like I'm connected or makes me feel like I'm learning or alive. And then it got to a certain point and I was like, I have to smash my phone into a million bits and like go and jump in the sea and like hang out with people outside. So it feels nice now to have a kind of bit more of a equal weighting.
But also because there's more alternatives now, you just don't have to just consume media. You can also go outside.
Yeah,
now. So,
totally.
I feel like
Yeah.
that helps.
Yeah.
Also, I've heard through the grapevine from my friends at City Slang that you might have some new music coming out soon.
That's
Can you
correct.
tell us a little bit about that?
I don't know what I'm allowed to say or not. I don't know what's happening in the future.
Okay.
Who knows?
That's the best cliffhanger ever. So thank you very much for your time. That was my
Thank
last
you.
question.
Nice. Thank you so much.
And have fun performing tonight.
Thank you. I will.
Thank you. Bye.
Right. Cheers.